Hello, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conference reaction for the Everton game. Now, it's a little bit weird with the Europa League game because he speaks about the Europa League game, then he has an embargoed bit for the next game and doesn't do it live on the Friday morning as normal, so hence we're not live. But some big news coming from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer about Paul Pogba, about transfers. It starts off really good with the transfer news and then it drops off. And what I would say is this. He spoke about strengthening in many positions for this team. If you compare our squad to other squads, we need 2 or 3 to have a squad that's got enough quality to rotate. That looks really good as we're approaching January. Remember, Liverpool have just gone and bought another player from Solskjaer. Very quick, very efficient Liverpool, and they're miles ahead of us, and they've done this before with Firmino. But then the killer line from Ollie was that, I didn't say it was anything to do with January though, they're long-term targets. If something short-term pops up, maybe, but we're planning long-term. And that is the killer for me, because it's like, I don't want to hear this long-termism. I don't want to hear about the future that never comes. I'm bored of that. I really am bored of that. We need to sign players now. You cannot be in a situation where you're going, well, we might do something in January if somebody short-term pops up. You know, what do you think? If I tell you to go and sit in a corner and not think about orange penguins, you're going to think about orange penguins. And if I say to you, if something short-term pops in January, what's the player you're thinking about? You know it. You know, the tall Peter Crouch from Croatia. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Mandzukic, and I don't want that. It terrifies me. This whole sentence from Ollie really terrifies me. It starts off exactly where we should be. Yeah, we need to bring players in lots of positions. We need 2 or 3 players to have a squad that we can rotate. Yes. Tick, tick, tick. Ollie understands it. He clearly understands it. But then it's that killer line, the one that's probably coming from the board. These are long-term signings. And for all those people who say, oh, Mark, you know, we've just won 3 games in a row, stop being negative. This is something that's very close to my heart, and I know it's close to some United fans' hearts as well. So I'm not going to pretend Matic and Mata were brilliant last night when I wouldn't have them at the club. I'm not flip-flopping on that, and I'm not changing my mind on this. What concerns me the most about saying, yeah, we need players, we need 2 or 3 players, we need players in multiple positions, but we're going to ignore another transfer window. You know, the summer transfer window should not be about the 2 midfielders we need and a striker. They should have came in last summer, so that this summer coming up, we're looking at the other positions we need to do. By every transfer window that we ignore and don't bring what we need in, knocks everything back further. You know, some people feel that we need a left back. Some people feel that we need, 3 midfielders, a right winger and a couple of strikers. Well, we're not going to do all that in the summer. We can't. I said this last January transfer window and the January transfer window before it. We can't keep refusing to do business in January or in the summer and keep talking about what we all know. It just feeds into the theory that some United fans have that this is just talk, and talk is cheap, and talk is very cheap for the Glazers and Woodward. If you talk about signings and you never do them, it's very cheap because you don't spend money. And it worries me what Ollie's come out with there, because he's totally owned the problem. Yeah, we need 2 or 3 players now, and in the future we need multiple positions, but we're looking long-term, not short-term. And that just worries me, because next summer's not a good summer anyway. We're slow at doing business. This has been proven. It took us all summer to do 3 deals. And it was a long summer. You know, the transfer window opened in the middle of May and it closed at the end of August, and there was no major tournament. And it took us 3 months to do 3 deals, basically. 3.5 months. So how are we going to do loads of deals in the summer when it's a shorter transfer window and there's a major tournament going on? It's not a good sign. We cannot refuse January, and I hope this is just talk, because we cannot refuse to do business in January. And I do not believe, oh well, you can't do good deals in January. It's nonsense. Decent clubs do decent deals at any time of the year. It's harder in January, I accept that, but you cannot just say it's hard to do business in January. The players we want aren't available in January. Well, you should have done some last summer. You know, we cannot. We've put ourselves into a great position. We've won 2 games in a row. We've got ourselves into the Europa League knockout stage, and we finished top of our group. There is an opportunity between now and the end of the season to get Champions League football. We will not get it with this squad because it is not deep enough, and Ollie admits that himself. And last season, between February and March, when the games kicked in, we got another injury crisis, and we haven't got the depth. If we lose McTominay or we lose Fred, we're screwed. If we lose Rashford or Martial, we're screwed. If we lose Wan-Bissaka, we're screwed. There is no depth in that squad. And and we go on to the next bit that he spoke about. He said Eric and Tim and Paul are all back training next week properly, and we'll see how it goes. They're like new signing. He didn't say that, but we know it's coming. We've got all these players coming back. But Timothy Fosu-Mensah, right? I like him. I hope he can be a player of our future. But let's call a spade a spade. He failed at Palace and he failed at Fulham, and he has not fulfilled his talent yet. So why is he like a new signing? I hope he is, but why is he? Eric Bailly will be injured within a month because he's injury prone. He's very good, but also he's a centre-back. Do we need Eric Bailly? We've got Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Twansebi. We're well stacked anyway. So welcome back, Eric Bailly. Good to have you back, but it's not like you're not a midfielder and you're not an attacker. Paul Pogba back, very important, but that's it. We've got no strikers to come back and we've got no midfielders to come back apart from Paul Pogba. We are very, very light in the midfield. On Paul Pogba, Everton not going to play. I did say this at the start of the week. People will again start with their conspiracy theories, but as I said on the other night from Manchester, the source who told me that Paul Pogba is not going anywhere in January, that's not going to happen. It won't happen. I believe Pogba might play against Watford. He won't play against Colchester, and he's definitely not playing against Everton. Ollie basically said he'll start training properly next week, and we'll see how he goes. So, at the end of the day, we can beat Everton and Watford without Pogba anyway. So I would rather Pogba gets himself back for just after Christmas. We've got 3 games. We've got Newcastle, we've got Burnley, and we've got Arsenal. If we can get Pogba back for that Arsenal game, and he's back fully fit, we've got a great chance to go and keep winning games of football. So yeah, Pogba not back for Everton. Jesse Lingard could be back for the Everton game. Didn't train on Thursday, and United will next train tomorrow on Saturday. So I think Lingard will get himself back for that. He actually had a good game against City. The last thing he'll want to do is to miss out on that game. So I think Lingard will be back. He also spoke about Mason Greenwood. I'm not afraid to pick Mason Greenwood. I've played him against Tottenham before. I'm going to do the Everton preview, our preview, the fan opinion preview, at 8 o'clock tonight. So join me for that. But I will say this on here, and I'll go into more depth in it on that show. Mason Greenwood should start. Who's with me? Smash a like if you're with me. Mason Greenwood should start. Like AZ Alkmaar, they ain't Astana. They're not bloody Partizan Belgrade. AZ Alkmaar are a decent team. They're top of their league basically with Ajax, and they're playing them on Sunday. They're a very good team. Mason Greenwood took them apart in the second half. If he was 25, he'd be playing on Sunday. It's only because he's young and Ollie wants to manage him, and I totally agree with that. I really do. He can't play every week, I get that. But when somebody gets an assist, and could have had 2 assists if Martial scored, he gets an assist with the penalty, he created that penalty, scores 2 very good goals, he needs to be rewarded. In football, it doesn't matter who you are. If you do the business against a decent team, you play the next game. He should not lose that momentum or reward of not playing against Everton. You find him a place in that team, and whether it's Dan James drops to the bench or whatever, I don't care. Mason Greenwood should start against Everton. You've got to reward ability and form like that, and for me, Mason Greenwood should start. I don't think he will, but why are we not going to do it? Because he's a teenager, and I don't think that's right. I think you score 2 goals, you get an assist, you put in a performance like that, you play the next game. He will want to play that next game, you play him in the next game. It's a bit harsh on Dan James, I agree, but it doesn't have to be Dan James who gets dropped, but I wouldn't drop Martial and Rashford. I think Greenwood should start. I don't know what you lot think on that. But lots to discuss, and I'm sure a lot of you are going to have a lot to say about the transfer story. So Ollie saying that we need to bring in players in multiple positions. We need 2 or 3 players coming in ASAP to allow us to rotate the squad. But he said himself, I didn't say January though, these are long-term targets. If something short-term comes up in January, then maybe, but we're looking long-term. I don't even understand that. Like, why? That totally, that's just popped into my head. That totally contradicts what he's just said. We're looking long-term. We know in the future we'll be fine. We're looking long-term, but then you're saying if we sign someone in January, we're going to look short-term. God, don't sign anyone then. I don't want any short-term. You've already got Ashley Young, Juan Mata, Matic, Phil Jones, short-term plasters on an open wound. We don't need any more short-term. Don't tell us to be patient and go long-term and then mention signing players in January with short-term. So I would be worried about January transfer window now, because to me, if Ollie's telling the truth there, and he hasn't always told the truth, has he, in relation to transfers, and he might be keeping stuff back, and I hope he is. You'll be surprised at the quality of player that's going to come here. There was money there, I just didn't want to spend it. We've heard him say those things, so, I don't believe those things to be true, but I don't see why we can't sign somebody in January. I don't. Erling Haaland's available. He's a long-term signing, so we're not in for him then. There are signings that you can make in January. There are. It just depends how much money you want to spend and how ruthless you are. And for those people who say, well, I don't agree with us going and offering 120 million for Jadon Sancho in January. Well, no, we're not going to do that. But if we wanted to, we could, and Dortmund would probably sell. You know, it's 40 million more than he's worth. They probably would do it. And certain clubs might do that. It's all right, people saying, well, you know, it's better to wait till the summer. But we're going to leave ourselves exposed again. As I said, last season we did it. We did really well for 3 months. We got into that PSG game. We got through PSG, and then we blew top 4 and the Champions League. All right, it was against a decent side in Barcelona, but it was because we had a massive injury crisis as well, because we had a very thin squad. We're going to do that again. Do you think we can play all the games we've got to play? Because remember, the FA Cup starts. We're still in the Carabao Cup. There's going to be 2 games in the Carabao Cup in January, FA Cup, all the Premier League games, then into February, might be the Carabao Cup final, another rounds of FA Cup, Europa League, Premier League. We're going to play a lot of games between January and May. And if we don't add anybody in January, we are going to fail. That's the rest of this season, because we will pick up injuries. You know, it's not even the players' fault. In the second half of the season, injuries are totally expected. It's fatigue, it's the amount of games. We need to sign players in January. That's what I think. Anyway, smash a like on the video. Christmas jumpers are still available. Links in the video description. It is Friday, so you might want to get one of those for yourselves, or one of our other jumpers. And I'll speak to you on the 8 o'clock show tonight. But get your comments in below. I'm interested to see what your feeling is about this transfer stuff, Pogba news, etc. I'll speak to you all soon.